Hello, hello, and welcome. Let's see if everybody can see and hear me okay. Before I even start here, I want to make sure that we are live. I think I just went through the last half an hour without going live, and I'm going to have to do it all over again. All right. So I'm guessing this is now the first time you've seen me today, and everything I just did didn't go out. Oh, God, I get to do it again. Kevin Lavis has contributed £5. Hey, Kevin, thank you. All right, guys. That's embarrassing. I didn't realize. I was so into what I was doing, I didn't realize. Yeah, what a bummer. All right, so I'm going to just repeat what I already did. This is why I ran late. I thought I was live. Welcome in. At least it's not Monday. Well, this is true. All right, so today I received a response from Tony at Silverstone regarding my issues with the LD01 case that we have here in front of you. And I want to read Tony's response and address what Tony says here in the only way I knew how, which is off the cuff. It's not so off the cuff now because I'm doing this now for a second time, which maybe is good. Maybe I can make it shorter. Tony says, hey, Carrie, I just finished watching your live stream. It took a while. Yeah, my live streams do. First of all, I love it when reviewers and editors aren't afraid to be critical of the product they receive from manufacturers. As a former part-time reviewer myself, I totally agree with what you're doing. You were very clear that some of the things you said were subjective opinions and that others may disagree. So I have no problem with that. Thank you, Tony. You get me. With that said, I wish I could have been there in person with you to explain our design decisions and thoughts as you built along. This isn't going to be easy, but I'll try to address the concerns you brought up in the video as best I can here. But first, a little background on why we created the LD01. I'm sure you're aware that over the last year and a half, almost every case manufacturer has been showing some type of lighted fan circles or RGB behind tempered glass that have that look with their case launches. And even though our LD01 also utilizes the three-sided tempered glass, we do our best to avoid the type of looks other manufacturers are using. We feel the combination of stainless steel, which, by the way, the LD01 is our first case to utilize this material and may very well be the first application for a retail PC case. And very dark glass can bring back the premium look and feel people loved when aluminum was the dominant material for high-end cases many years ago. You'll notice from our press photos and the way we present the LD01 on our product pages that we take a different approach. The tempered glass is not there to just make the case transparent and let you see everything inside. We wanted it to be able to look good on its own if a user chose not to light it up. The LD01's glass is dark enough to sufficiently cover an imperfect interior, so in this way, we're introducing a glass-based case that not only works for RGB and flashy builds, but it also can be used in a more professional build. Perhaps you have clients that need a PC in a very nicely furnished office or design studio and want something more upscale without all the RGB lights or see-through glass. This could be it. Yes, Tony, you're right. It is possible that 1 out of 1,000 of my clients could have that need. That is awfully specific. I don't know if you built that because someone asked you to. I suspect you built it. You built something nobody asked for, but that's what I'm concluding. Emphasizing the stainless steel, there's a commercial that used to air. They said that this chess set was made of fine pewter. Since when was pewter, P-E-W-T-E-R, it's a metal. When has that ever been considered to be fine? Stainless steel is a strong material, but it's not a fine material. If I were to take an aluminum case to a recycling center, I will get some cash. If I take a stainless steel case to a recycling center, I have to bring it by the ton to make some change. Having a hard time finding a value in that. That feels a little like marketing speak, a little disconnected from reality. But and just because other case manufacturers are making RGB with glass, you have to do it too? Since when is that an excuse? If all the other case manufacturers were including PET rocks, would you do that? I kind of feel like we're back to lava lamps. Remember lava lamps? They weren't very good lamps. They didn't really do anything. And yet people bought them and bought them and bought them. I feel like RGB lighting is today's lava lamp. My opinion. He says, we believe the tint we apply to the glass is dark enough that most imperfection will appear hidden or hard to see. The tempered glass is not there to just see through everything. It could also look good on its own. It does. But it's a fingerprint and dust magnet, Tony. And why did you have to make the stainless steel chrome? Why couldn't you have made it black to match the glass? Why did you have to do that? It's just, you want to show off fingerprints? I don't get it. The chrome accents are actually stainless steel, and this is our first production case to utilize that material, likely the industry's first as well. It's stainless steel. I don't see it. When you want to make a case out of carbon fiber, call me. It's not only there to look good, but to provide protection for the tempered glass and for panel support. If you examine the inner part of the side panels, you will clearly see they're not just accents, but actual structural and mechanical support for mating with the main chassis. Nobody does this with tempered glass panels in the industry, as they often resort to drilling holes directly through the tempered glass, which is less secure and more cumbersome for mounting and introduces stress points on the tempered glass. He's absolutely right. Absolutely right. Every case you've seen with tempered glass that I've worked on has those screws that hold the glass in place. And Tony is saying that his glass panel, these chrome accents, they're not accents at all. They're structural support. Well, I'm going to put this in plain English for everybody, Tony. I'm going to take the marketing speak out of it. Back in the 1920s, car windows, all the way up through today, had window frames. This is a window frame. That's all you've got here. It's not as fancy as you're making it sound, and it's not that inventive or creative. This window frames have been around as long as there have been windows. Maybe you're the first one to actually use it in a case this way, but this is nothing out of the box thinking. This is normal way of how glass is framed. And the frame itself, the material that the frame is made out of, is irrelevant. I don't care what it's made out of. I don't care if it's aluminum or stainless. You're implying, Tony, that there's some added value there. Sure, stainless is structurally stronger than aluminum, but it's also a cheaper material. I'm seeing fingerprints. Just by me touching this just now, look at all the fingerprints is left. Why couldn't you have made this color matched? Why couldn't you do that? Why? It's a frame. It's just a frame. And by the way, people are trying to avoid frames. In cars today, you'll see some cars, when you close the door, the window goes up. That's because those windows don't have frames. So if you were to close the door, the glass has no way to seal against the car body. So what happens when you open the door, the glass drops about a half inch or so. And when you close the door, the window goes up and seals against the car. If your car has a metal frame around the glass, it doesn't do that. Well, we're trying to talk about stuff that's high tech, and we're going back to really old tech and sort of reintroducing it as new. I don't see any innovation there. Again, just because other case manufacturers are doing something, that's to me the last reason in the world for you to do anything. You should do what other case manufacturers are not doing. Let me continue. Another issue with three-sided glass cases from all other manufacturers was cooling. It's nearly impossible to manufacture tempered glass with multiple holes or vents drilled like you can with steel or acrylic, so they tend to have really bad airflow. Now, the way we solved this difficult engineering problem was with the inverted layout. So if you can imagine, if we had the case right side up and a high-end graphics card, the graphics card fans will be very close to the power supply shroud, which will then limit the air intake. But when you have it inverted, the graphics card will have more direct access to fresh air from the top, and adding fans there will give you pretty awesome cooling performance without the need for liquid cooling. Okay, let's talk about this for a minute. This is what I call making an excuse. What Tony is saying, this is just a basic graphics card, but they're all pretty much designed the same. If you have a high-end graphics card, you're going to have some fans on the bottom of it. And this fan is going to draw air in, and the reason it's got this plastic around it is it's going to push the air through the insides of that plastic and out through these vents right here. And here's what Tony says. Here's the logic Tony is using. He says if this motherboard was placed right side up, then this video card fan would be blocked by the shroud. Why don't you change the shroud? Why don't you put a vent on the shroud? Why don't you make the case a little bit taller so that there's some space between the bottom of the card and the shroud? All you're doing is justifying, not necessarily with any logic. It's like, I did it that way because I didn't want to change the shroud, because I didn't want to make the case taller. Instead, I chose to invert the case. Now, if I was the engineer, I would reverse those priorities. The last thing I would want to do is invert the motherboard. It makes the cable management profoundly difficult. But let's keep going with Tony's thought. So Tony's thought is, by inverting the motherboard, now the fan is going to face up. And by inverting the fans so that instead of the traditional way of blowing air out, we're going to bring air in, directly in and right onto the video card. See that? Right through here. And that's going to give you superior cooling than you would get from a regular case. Okay, then how come you didn't include fans? If this case requires fans for proper cooling, why are they not included? I don't get it. If it's that important, why is it an option? I don't want to be too hard on Tony. Part of me wants to just kind of rib him and give him a hard time. A lot of this is opinion, my opinion versus Tony's opinion. My goal here is to convey practicality to Silverstone. I want to see some practicality, and I want to help them understand. Because if they can make a case that's practical, I'll buy it all day long. And this case isn't practical. It's not. This third glass panel back here, why is it there? Can anybody tell me why this is here? There's nothing to see. You know what's back here? A big motherboard tray. You know how heavy this is? Do you know what the cost of manufacturing this is? Why didn't you just give me a panel that matches the color and is lighter weight? Why did you have to make it glass? I've yet to have a reason for that. Let's see what Tony says. We'll keep going. Over nearly the last decade, our cases have always performed at the top of their class when it comes to cooling. So with the LD01, we wanted to show that we're still at the top of our game when it comes to this aspect of case design, even with the inherent limitation of tempered glass. So with this initial brief, I hope you can see better why we make the case this way. We don't just make cases to be different for the sake of being different. It has to have a purpose. And maybe we haven't been doing a good enough job of pointing that out. Anytime you have to explain the reasoning behind your engineering, you're not doing a good enough job, in my opinion. It should be obvious. Clearly, it wasn't obvious to me. And we went through this, me and Tony, with the Temjin case. There was a lot of things not obvious to me. So maybe I'm just an idiot. With regards to the lack of a hard drive LED, this was pure form over function A decision made by the lead product manager for this model. He wanted to keep the case as minimalistic as possible with just a power LED light surrounding the power button. Of the nearly 100 case models that we currently have, there are only 3 models that do not have a hard drive LED, all by the same product manager. This product manager has left Silverstone earlier this year, not because of the hard drive LED, in case you were wondering. So our future models won't be like this anymore. All right, let's talk about this for a second. When an engineer crosses the line into becoming an artist, in my opinion, they no longer should be working for consumer products. They should go make their own little doodads to go to museums and, custom builds for people that appreciate that. When you're building for the general public, you should be building what the masses need and want. Removing the hard drive LED, which conveys critical information regarding status activity of the hard drive. But when your emphasis is on lighting, lights that do nothing, they might as well be a lava lamp, they do nothing, is a weird set of priorities that is an artistic decision. I just think an engineer who wants to be so free-form with his creations as to make decisions that force the consumer to go without something. I paid for a hard drive LED on that motherboard. I paid for it. Why would you take it from me? That artistic decision has a negative impact on the person that has to live with this day in and day out, and the people that have to work on it when it needs to get worked on. That sucks, Tony. It sucks. It's bad decision making. If you're building a case for RGB lights, you shouldn't be taking lights off. It's completely the antithesis of the whole point of the product. Now, a viewer wrote to me and said, why don't you take the power LED cables and plug them into the hard drive LED, and then the power will become your hard drive LED. And that's a good idea. Or you could do what other case manufacturers have done, and where you have the surround up here on the power switch, right up here. Oh, it's heavy. You could have made half of it green and half of it red. Why didn't you do that? Here's what I think. I'm going to tell you what I think happened. I think you had a very egotistical engineer. He wasn't working with a team. Or he was working with a team that all nodded their head and said yes all the time. I don't think there was any independent overview happening. And I don't believe that you submitted the design to a real working computer technician or computer builder to survey suggestions for improvement. I think the engineer said, I'm the greatest engineer. Nobody questions my work. This is my latest creation, and I gift it to all of you. It's very arrogant. Now, I don't know what happened, but I'm getting the vibe. I'm getting the vibe here. You got an engineer with a really bad attitude problem. I'm about practicality. Taking that hard drive LED is the exact opposite of practicality. I can't get past that. Not at a case at this price point. We're going to add a bunch of LEDs as long as they don't convey any information. If they convey information, we don't want them. Lava lamp, Tony, lava lamp. The audio cable being too short. Yes, this is our production team's own fault. Aha, so let me stop right there. Stop. Thank you, Tony. I don't even know how to respond. Somebody took ownership and responsibility and said, we screwed up. Do you know how refreshing that is to hear in 2018? Oh my God, somebody admitted they made a mistake. Wow. I thought I was the only one. And I do that a lot, Tony. He says, I know. Our engineers specified a 450 millimeter cable for the audio cable, but production units only have a 400 millimeter long audio cable, which was the problem I had. And he said, we're going to be updating this in the next production batch of the cases, but for any user that buys one of these, we will give them an audio extension cable for free. They just have to write to us to ask for it. That's great customer service, Tony. Wonderful. All right, let's talk about that USB Type-C connector. You know, I was upset. So you guys know the idea behind USB is it only plugs in one of two ways, but it always takes 3 attempts to get it plugged in. So USB Type-C is the smaller USB, and it can plug in either direction. Either way works just fine. You might have a cell phone that already uses it. I know my Samsung Galaxy S8 uses Type-C. But what it does is it takes an entire USB port of 2, and it only gives you 1 in return. So it's a little thief. Here's what he's got to say about that. It needs to have 2 sets of contact pins in the port because it can be plugged in either way. It needs to be able to have the set of contact pins to one port in one direction and the other port in the other direction. Okay, I don't know how USB-C is internally wired, but it would seem to me that you'd simply bridge the connectors together. If it was in one direction and pin 1 was over here, and it's in the other direction and pin 1 is over here, then why aren't these bridged internally so that no matter which way you plug it in, you're still only using one port? Maybe I'm oversimplifying, and maybe USB Type-C is more complicated than that, but that seems like a pretty easy fix. But anyway, let's keep going here. It's slightly over $100. We felt the LD01 should have a Type-C port for future-proofing. Okay. We obviously wouldn't do this for a cheaper case. Now, for people who don't have motherboards with 2 USB 3.0 pin headers, as was the case here, this motherboard does not. It only has 1 USB 3.0 header. We do offer an adapter. Yes, the adapter he sent me earlier, this is a USB 3.1 adapter. Let's talk about the adapter and why this is not a good solution. Hold on a minute. Let me finish what he wrote. He says, admittedly, we did solve the problem of the USB-C connector taking up the entirety of the 19-pin internal header by utilizing a controller that can auto-detect the orientation of the connector and automatically activate the right set of pins in contact with the device. This is much more expensive to do, though, so it's only available in our $140 PM02 case. You can see this case has 3 USB Type-A and a Type-C from a pair of 19-pin internal connectors. Very good. Tony, it's a $20 difference. When you say more expensive, $20 is, I can't even go eat dinner for $20. Listen, in the future, Tony, if you're gonna send me something, send me the best you got, man. Send me the best at any price. Show me the best. Don't send me something in the middle, because I'm gonna complain about it. I thought this was the best. I didn't realize you had a model above this. You should have sent me the model above it. All right, so here's the USB 3.1 add-in card he's talking about right here. Let me tell you the problem with this. First of all, the reason I still have it, he sent it to me like last year, is I don't have any use for it. I don't have any customers who need it. But if you wanted to add USB 3.1, let's say because our motherboard only has 1 internal header, we can add another USB 3 internal header right here with this card. But it also requires power. I mean, if you really want this to function with all USB devices, you really need to add power to it. Well, think about this. When I plug this in, let's say it goes here or here, where am I going to run the power cable? Let me just see if I can get that to sit in there for a minute. Where am I going to run the power cable, Tony? Where's it going to come from? It's got to come all the way from the opposite side of the case and run all the way across. And there's a glass window for everybody to see it. This should have been cut out up here on the top. You should have made the case an inch taller, given me a cutout so I can come in from the top and tuck it in. That's what I would have done if I was the engineer. Then you've got the USB-C cable. The cable itself. Where's that going to run? Exactly the same way as the power cable. Now I've just doubled the number of cables that I'm proudly displaying. Now granted, the glass is tinted. But if the glass is tinted so much so that you can't see in it without RGB lighting, it doesn't sound like you really need glass. It sounds like you could have taken a piece of glass and painted it black on the inside and stuck it on there if that's what you were going for. It's still a fingerprint and dust magnet. It just doesn't, it's just not adding up to make any sense. I'm having a very, very difficult time finding the practicality and the reasoning behind the sacrifices that are being made here. under the justification. Look how pretty it is. Well, running cables is the opposite of making it pretty. You can't run cables and then put a glass panel on it and go, doesn't it look pretty? Well, it looked pretty if you didn't have all those cables. Well, you resolve that by making your cable management the number one priority, and you don't take away important LEDs. You add LEDs. You don't take them away, you add them. If that's what you're going for, don't take them away. All right, so yes, if you want to add USB 3.1, an internal header, Silverstone makes this. You don't have to use it on any specific case or motherboard. It pretty much works. As long as you've got a slot for it to plug into, you're good to go. And it's great that Silverstone offers this. That's kind of a unique product that I don't really see being offered by many other manufacturers. Silverstone also makes another version of this, which Tony also sent me, and again, I haven't had any reason to ever use it. But this is the expansion card, which gives you the traditional USB 3.1 with the Type-C connector right there on the back without the internal header. You still have to provide power to it. So it's just it's there, so you guys know it's available. And you know, Silverstone, these are great products. They're well made. They work well. Yeah. Looks like a contribution came in. Who did I miss? Let's take a look. Let me step around so I can see. Oh, Kevin Lavis again, £5 contributed. Thank you. How about this case to replace the 200R master? We'll talk about that in a minute, Kevin. We're going to get back to that. I think we're good there. Okay. Thank you for the contribution, Kevin. I will cover this when we're done here. This is actually part of what we'll be talking about. With regards to the hard drive case, I said it should have a groove so I can slide it back and forth rather than the fixed positions. He says we didn't include a groove for the drive cage as that will result in a large gap beneath the case. I disagree. It doesn't. What is he talking about, a large gap? It's a slot. It's a slot. All right. We did, however, precisely calculate the position to perfectly align for 3 distinct positions that users may want. Either no fan on the bottom, or room for a fan, or room for a fan plus a radiator. So you're suggesting there's only 3 potential places that anybody could ever want to move that cage. There's no other reason. There's nothing else somebody might want to move that cage in between 4. Really? Did you really think about that? I just don't think it's a good reason. At least if you put the groove, people can adjust it more precisely. On my camera, when I do my zoom, I have a button to hit for zoom, and the zoom jumps in steps. And quite often, I need it in between steps. So that's when you can grab the camera and rotate the dial by hand, and I can get the exact zoom I want. When you put steps in, you're reducing functionality to the end user. And when you justify it, I'll tell you the response I would have liked to have seen, Tony, and that is, that's a good idea. Well, we'll take that into consideration. Nobody's looking at the bottom of the case, Tony. The idea that it's got a groove that's maybe 1/4 of an inch, if that, wide, so what? In fact, let's take a look at the bottom of the case. I suspect it's not solid. Oh, look, it's got grooves in it. Oh, it's got holes. And holes and holes. God forbid this little indented area was a long groove. That would have changed that much, Tony? Really? My idea was that preposterous to you? That, heaven forbid, we put a groove there. What do you think is going to go up in there? I'm sorry. Kind of giving Tony a hard time. I can't buy that excuse. Sorry, I'm not buying it today. Some of the explanations are good, Tony, but that one's not flying for me. Okay, what do we have here? Red Dragon contributed $2. Thank you, Red Dragon. Roger Bells contributed $10. That add-in card does not require additional power. Roger, there's a power connector on the add-in card. Why is it there, Roger? Frederick Lundholm has contributed 100 Swedish krona. Thank you, Frederick. I think that's around $11 United States dollars. Thank you for that. Yeah, they give you power connectors that you don't use. That's why they engineered it. That's not to say it won't work. There's some devices that won't work without power. If you want it to work with everything, you better add power. That's why it's there. I hope this answers your concerns regarding the LD01. I know they're not perfect, but we do know what we're doing. Okay. I never meant to imply you didn't know what you were doing. What I'm trying to convey is that you guys aren't the ones having to build systems for customers and then work on those systems years later. And you're charging by the hour, and customers want to pay you to be there for as short of a time as possible, and they want to be up and running as quickly as possible. So case design is an important part of the ability of the IT technician to get in and get his job done quickly, effectively, and also for the case to withstand the rigors of daily use, especially when most of these cases sit on a floor. People are sliding their chairs in and out, they run into them, they bump into them, they kick them. So case doors are always a bad idea. Anything that shows fingerprints or collects dust is a bad idea. You want something you can work on very quickly, have nice clean cable management, and the case shouldn't be too wide and it shouldn't be too tall. People have other stuff around their desk besides their computer. They've got phone equipment and networking equipment, printers and scanners and staplers and tape dispensers and their mouse and their keyboard and the monitor. There's just so much room, and we need to be respectful of the needs of the user and the needs of the person that's servicing them. And that's where this case falls short for me. This is a very niche case. This isn't going to be your number one seller. It's just not going to happen. This is for a very distinct crowd. And I will predict that you will not sell enough of these to continue putting a lot of effort into expanding that. Maybe I'm wrong. But I think when you go with a more generic case that is more practical, that's going to be your number one seller. So it kind of depends what you want to do. Do you want to build something because you can, or do you want to build something that actually, has value to the vast majority of people? That's what I would be asking myself. If I was the CEO in charge of Silverstone, I would require my managers to ask themselves those questions. Is what we're doing an example of what's possible, which would be like a car manufacturer making a concept car? Or is what we're doing going to be practical to the average end user and system builder? Or are we making lava lamps? He says, I noticed you did not remove the front panel in your live stream. Maybe as a follow-up with a more powerful system that utilizes a high-end GPU, you could do that. It's very easy to remove. Just place your hand in the opening on the bottom of the front of the panel and pull it. This will reveal the easily removable front filter we've placed on the inside. Also, I don't know where it came from, but throughout your live stream, I kept seeing people commenting that the LD01 was a $200 case, thus fueling the fire that Silverstone is ripping people off. Again, I wish I was there with you to clear these things up. This is a $120 case. I don't know what some of these people in the chat room are smoking. I did see those comments of being $200. In fact, somebody just posted something about it. You guys, you're not looking at the same case, and then you're poisoning the chat room with false information, and that's not cool. This is a $120 case. Russ Martin says, good afternoon, Carrie. He's contributed $5. Thank you, Russ. I'm enjoying this crucifixion. Russ, I like Tony. I'm not trying to crucify Tony. And I really hope that the information I'm conveying here is seen more like Mr. Spock. I'm not interested in the emotion of it, and I don't intend to hurt people's feelings, but I want to be direct, and I want to be honest, and I want to do that without worrying about hurting somebody's feelings. Just to cut to the quick, you know? I appreciate that Tony's taken the time out to explain to me the reasoning. He didn't have to. I disagree with most of the reasoning. I can't follow. It's like because we did this to the left, we're just going to keep going to the left. That's not a good reason to me. All right, let's take the front panel off. Let's see what he's talking about. Let's take this front panel off. He says it's very easy. You reach under here. Yeah, there's a big hole. Pull it. Yeah, that was pretty easy. There's the inside. Not much to see here. All right, we'll set that down. Oh, here's the filter he's talking about. Big filter. No fans. If the so Tony says if you'd have built a higher end system. So Tony, I'm not sitting around here with $700 graphics cards just hanging around, and I don't have any customers that ordered this case, so I wouldn't have anything to do with it. I'll tell you what, if any of you out there want me to build you a high-end gaming machine with RGB lighting and a 1080 Ti or RTX 2080, whatever, you contact me, we'll do it with this case, because Tony is telling me that's really where this case is going to shine. But Tony, there's no fans on this case. Not a single fan. There's no fans up here. So what's the point of this filter? There's no fans up here. What's the point of this filter? And there's no fan in the back. You gave me 0 fans, Tony. So if you're implying that this would be a great gaming rig, maybe you should include those fans. Now, Tony might say, well, you'll just take the fans off if you're buying a radiator. Or will I? Maybe I won't use the fans that came with the radiator because the fans with the Silverstone will be far superior, quieter, and have hardly RGB lighting that really emphasize the look of the case that you're so telling me about. If I would have done it the way you wanted it done, you should have not given me the option to do it wrong. That's all I'm saying. So this is kind of a weird filter. I kind of wish this was a magnetic like this one up here. Tony, see how nice that is? That's nice. This one, in Arizona, let me tell you what's going to happen to this. In Arizona, we have over 100 days in a row of temperatures exceeding 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So what is that, 40 degrees Celsius, something like that. This plastic is going to become brittle, and the slightest movement will break it in half. So the idea that it would be magnetized means there'd be less stress in twisting on the plastic and less likely to crack. The way that you guys have to install this, by inserting these tangs into the slots and then pushing this forward, I will predict, just by being in this arid climate of Arizona, even though it'll be indoors, I believe that that is going to crack, that I don't think that that's going to withstand the test of time. This one, on the other hand, this is metal. It's like a thin aluminum, and it's flexible and it's magnetized. This is a good filter. I like this. I'd like to see some consistency. But yes, the front panel does come off easily. I just noticed right here on the bottom, it says Silverstone. You can't really pick it up on the camera. You know what I would have done if I was the engineer, Tony? I would have put a little LED behind the word Silverstone, all in white. And it would be dim. And it would have a little switch right here to turn it off if you didn't like it. This is an RGB case after all. And I would be boasting it was made by Silverstone. You can't even see that. You might as well not even have your logo there. But that would have been such a touch of class, in my opinion, to have a dim LED, not too bright, let it light that bad boy up. And give the user, maybe you can put the switch on the bottom or on the side here if the user wants to turn it off. Maybe even have a brightness, right? So the switch will have 3 positions. Well, that adds to the cost. Well, it's not a cheap case. Are we making budget cases? If we're not making budget cases, I don't want to hear about cost. You get what you pay for. It goes on nice and easy. Let's talk about practical cases. I like to use the Corsair 200R because for $60, you get a solidly built computer made of quality materials with plenty of room for expansion. You could put a regular ATX board in it, which you can't do here. You can put a Micro-ATX board in it, or you can put a mini ITX board in it. You can have 4 solid-state drives and 4 hard drives simultaneously, requiring no drive rails. Customers lose drive rails. If you have a case that requires drive rails, your case sucks. There's no excuse for drive rails anymore. That's an outdated, outmoded, and obsolete technology. Customers always lose their drive rails, and finding replacements is very difficult because they're proprietary to the design of the case. Very rarely can you use the drive rails from one case on another case, and there's no reason to need them anymore. So the Corsair 200R enables me to just slap a drive in, be it an SSD, an optical drive, or a hard drive, and it just locks into position. No tools or screws are required. That's brilliant. The case is mid-tower, so it's not the smallest, but it's also not too wide, so the cable management on it is perfect. I don't like cases that bow outwards. When you have a case, like Tony had mentioned, they had a case that he thought would be good for me. The panels on it, they bow out. Well, when the case bows out like that, it's something that's going to get hit with a chair or kicked with feet. It gets dented, it gets scratched. The part that bows out is part of the design. In real-world application, gets damaged and dented and scratched over time. Make the case big enough, make the panels flat and even. Don't make them start off skinny and then they get wider and then they go back skinny again. That is not good. Don't make your case too wide. Don't make your case too tall. Make sure the case stays flat and even across the top, the bottom, the sides, the front, and the back. At no point should the case jut out in one direction off to the sides. It's impractical. These are the things that people bump up against, especially if you're walking around the house at night. That'll be the thing that goes right up against your leg. You walk right into it. It sucks. The Corsair 200R is an excellent example of good engineering for practical application in real-world scenarios. I would very much, I'll put this out there, I would very much love to work with Silverstone to fill the niche that the Corsair 200R leaves behind. Every case that people have sent to me in my chat and an email regarding potential replacement for the 200R falls short. Every one of them falls short. Whether they require drive rails, whether they simply don't have the capacity of the ability to hold 4 SSDs and 4 hard drives simultaneously, not one or the other. It's brilliant engineering. The fact I can get in and out quickly, there's excellent cooling, nothing is inverted, there's proper cable management, there's room for fans. Where the Corsair 200R falls short is in custom cooling if you wanted to put a radiator in. Not a good case for that. It's too short. It needs to be another inch or two taller. I'm okay with that. Liquid cooling is something enthusiasts do. Newer corporations and most home users have no interest in it. If you build a case for the masses, you'll have the best-selling case you've ever made. And I'd be happy to work with you on it. I'll just put that out there. Because there's no case yet brought to my attention that offers all the things Corsair does on that $60 case. And with Corsair discontinuing that, there's a hole that needs to be filled, and you guys are right up there to fill it, I'm telling you. 2 USB 3s, forget the USB 3.1 for now. We'll cover that in the future when it actually is needed. What we need now are 2 USB 3s up front and at the top. Power switch, reset switch, hard drive LED, power LED. I could honestly do without the headphone and microphone jack. I've never met a customer, well, that's not true. I very rarely meet a customer who's ever used the front headphone jack or the front microphone jack. Very unusual. You want to make the case cleaner? Get rid of those. You should have room for a front fan and a rear fan. That's it. That's all you need. The case should be solid. It should have a filter for the power supply, as the 200R does. You should have, 7 expansion ports to fulfill and be able to install and fill those expansion ports without having heat issues or space constraints. I'm waiting for a case manufacturer to step up and build one for the masses instead of making all these niche specialty cases for this percentage of the population of computer builders. It's a weird market to go after for such little return on investment. Make a case for the masses. All right, I think that's what I have to say. Let me take a quick look at the chat. We'll address some comments, and then I'm going to wrap this video up because I have something else I have to get done. Where did I do with my mouse? Here it is. I want to say again, a super thank you over to Tony. Thanks for putting up with me. Thanks for listening to what I have to say. It's my goal to build a case, to help you guys build a case that will appeal to more people besides what this, this obviously appeals to some people. It could be so much more appealing with just a little tweaking. This little hard drive, this little shelf here for video cards, great idea. I like it. So it's not that I'm only focusing on the bad. That's all I'm focusing on. The rest of it's pretty obvious. And there's no doubt Silverstone makes quality components using quality materials and have excellent customer service. When it comes to this case, I wish I could have been part of its development. I wish I could have at least been heard. I would love to know the reasons why I would be shot down for the suggestions by the manufacturing folks, if it's a cost issue or if it's just simply pride, because pride's not a good enough excuse. Helena Song 2010 has contributed $9.99. Thanks for the great content. I'm learning so much. Well, thank you. Tony's a great guy. I am very lucky to I have to tell you, guys like Tony aren't common in the industry. They will see the criticisms as attacks. I'm not attacking. I'm saying I like this case. I want to love it. Here's what's keeping me from loving it. And remember, what I want, I can't speak for what you want, but I can speak for all of my customers and all my clientele. With 27 years I've been doing this, almost 30 years, 27 years I've been doing this. I know what people want. The average person, the people that make up the majority of computer owners, I know what they want. This isn't it. This is for a very niche group of people. This will never be a best-selling case. It doesn't have to be. Not everything you do has to be the best-selling case. My interest as a technician is to want to buy the best-selling case. It's to want to make people aware that it exists. Corsair doesn't pay me any money. I have no relationship with Corsair. The only reason I talk so fondly of the 200R is it's how I feel. It's how my customers convey their response. Tony kept talking about the look and feel of it. Well, this isn't a cell phone, Tony. I'm not putting this in my pocket. No customer has ever said, I don't like the way this feels when they talk about a computer case. It's never been said. They have said, why do my fingerprints keep showing up and why does it collect so much dust? I've heard that a lot of times. That's where we need to focus on practicality. Practicality in the real world for the masses, not for some guy with a lot of money and a lot of time who likes to buy lava lamps. Lyle agrees. But that doesn't make Silverstone a bad company, and it doesn't mean it's poorly constructed. It doesn't mean it's too much money. I've never said any of that. If this is up your alley, by all means, it's worth what they're charging for it. And I have to say, at half the price, the 200R included 2 fans. But tempered glass isn't cheap. And adding that third glass panel to a side that has nothing to see, Just adds weight and expense that's completely unnecessary. It's just a little disrespectful to the customer, in my opinion. Where would the front fans draw in air? Right here. Right up here. You draw air in right there. Also at the bottom, draw in air this way. Yeah, there won't be any problem drawing air in the front. Other questions? Tony will say, buy the more expensive case if you want the fans. Send me the more expensive case from now on, Tony. Show me your best. Show me your best. Don't send me the middle. Don't send me mediocre. If you have something better than this, send me the best. Then it won't be so critical. Or will I? We'll have to see what the difference is. Should be less for me to complain about. Free research and development from Kerry Holzman. That's right. I'd be happy to do it. It's in my benefit. It's call Tony. He better not be crying. Tony understands where I'm coming from. JJ Wolf says, I have a Leon Lee case, which works great and looks new. 10-year-old. Yeah, Leon Lee was making those aluminum cases. I have several customers that still use them today. Sharon Idle says, people in the chat aren't getting it. Kerry is not ripping the hell out of Tony. He's giving him honest, constructive criticism, and it's very important for product development and business. Sharon gets it. Thank you, Sharon. And Douglas says, if Kerry was really upset, the tone would be much different. Yes, Douglas. Yeah, I'm not upset. I'm just offering some constructive criticism in what would make this case more appealing to me as a practical working computer technician. Tony didn't have to send me the case. Tony didn't have to ask for my opinion. And just because my opinion isn't all wonderful doesn't mean I'm attacking him. I'm doing what he asked me to do. He said, will you review this? I'm reviewing it. He responded to my review, and I'm responding to that. That's all. It's not an attack. It's not in any way meant to put anybody down. The goal here is for an overall understanding of what my expectations are as a real working computer technician who has to deal with stuff like this. Well, actually, I don't, to be honest. The people who buy stuff like this are enthusiasts. Enthusiasts don't hire me. People that hire me are the masses, the mass majority of people who own computers. They don't want a case like this. So I have to come at it from a very practical standpoint of what I call the real world. When I'm referring to the real world, I'm referring to what's expected from consumers on price points, what's expected from me that I have to work on it. And we combine those two things together with quality expansion, cooling, and overall looks. Again, saying look and feel doesn't apply here. Nobody feels their case. That's just weird. It's just weird. My Antec case has rails. Yes, Antec likes rails, and it's one reason I don't like Antec. Am I a fan of the 230T? No, I don't like the LED fans on it, and I think I had some cable management with it. It's a little smaller. I built the computer for the judge. If you see, I've got a computer that a judge ordered. That was built with the 230T. It's not a bad case. It's just not as good as the $200. Tony won't be sending you anything else for review. I hope that's not true. I just hope he doesn't send me mediocre stuff. Send me the best you got, or don't bother. If there was a case, if there's an LD02, that's what he should have sent me. He should not have sent me this one. Money is not the issue here. What we're talking about is value. And it sounds to me like the LD02 may be a better value, even if it costs more. The 200R does have room for 4 hard drives, but the cage is not designed well for that. It traps in the heat. This is true, Mike. The 200R is far from perfect. I never said it was perfect. What I'm conveying is it's the best case for the money that fits practically every single customer's needs that I've ever had. I've never put 4 hard drives in a 200R. My understanding is there's supposed to be a way to add another fan to blow over hard drives, but as solid state drives are getting cheaper and cheaper, that's becoming less of a concern. And but you're right. If you were to fill 3 or 4 drives in that cage, there would be probably, your drives would run hotter than they should, and over a period of time, that will probably result in a reduced lifespan. This is true. 760T is a good case. The 760T is too large and heavy. Christopher Raybone says, Car-ey, I think you have given a true and honest review of the case and are just pointing out ways of improvement. Well, thank you. That was my intent. So apparently Corsair has discontinued the 200R, and that leaves a hole in the market because there's just no comparison. Nothing you guys are suggesting in the chat room matches the form factor, the profile, and the expansion of the 200R. That just doesn't exist. Nothing so far you guys have suggested. They either have case doors, or they don't have 5 1/4 inch bays, or they require rails or screws to secure drives. This should all be toolless. SSDs, I've never seen a better SSD mounting mechanism than in the 200R. It is so simple, it's genius. Sometimes I think the simplest designs are the most difficult designs. When you make it overly complex, anybody can do that. And then you have to solve these engineering problems of cooling because of tempered glass. Well, don't build out of tempered glass. How about that idea? If it's so bad for cooling, why would you do it? Amazon still has 19 200Rs. Really? Last I checked, they didn't have any. Let me take a look. I might need to stock up if that's true. Let's take a quick look. I need to take the mouse with me. Where's my mouse? There it is. I see a 100R. I don't see any. Yeah, I don't see any on Amazon. I don't know. You're going to have to send me a link because I don't see it. I see a 270R, which has no front panels. The Spec 02, which is bulgy and LEDs. I see no 200Rs. The 100R has terrible cable management. And it's bulgy, again. It doesn't have that nice flat evenness on the sides. No case windows. Cannot have a case window on a business computer. And most end users don't want case windows. It's just dirty. It gets dusty and It never, you know, it looks clean for a day or two. And Arizona is a very dusty environment. Would I use the 750D if it didn't have a case window? No, it's too large. It's too tall. Maybe Corsair will bring back the 200R if enough people ask. I have a better idea. How about if somebody like Silverstone steps up and fills the niche and takes the business away from Corsair? If Corsair doesn't want the business, there's got to be another case manufacturer who does, wouldn't you think? I was shopping for a 1080 Ti graphics card for a client. So EVGA makes the black edition. I was looking at the 1080 Ti black edition. Newegg has it for $715 and I ordered it, and then I immediately kicked myself in the ass because a quick search on the part number revealed EVGA sells the 1080 Ti black edition on eBay. EVGA sells on eBay, brand new, not refurbished, $680. It's a $35 difference that Newegg is pocketing. But I could have bought it direct from EVGA on eBay. Now, I don't like to source parts from eBay, but if it's coming directly from the manufacturer, and especially a manufacturer as good as EVGA, I screwed up. I'm half tempted to buy one just to have it in stock, but I got a feeling it's going to go down in price. When it does, it may be hard to find. They may go out of stock. So I don't know. I'm sort of back and forth on this decision. But do know that EVGA sells product on eBay. I didn't know that. Looks like Frank contributed $1.99. Thank you, Frank. Carrie, they seem to be selling the 200R in the UK and not in the USA. The 200R is still available wherever inventory exists, but I think once the inventory runs out, there won't be any replacement. There won't be any fulfillment of new inventory. That's what I understand. So there's probably warehouses in America that have 200Rs. I just haven't found them yet. And I'm going to have to find something else. And rather than hoarding 200Rs, I need to just move forward and adapt, find something else. I'll tell you what sucks is I've been slowly moving a customer's office into 200Rs, and we've only done about a third of the computers. And now I can't finish that. I was wanting them all to be the same. And every time we would rebuild a computer, I would reuse, or I would put it into a 200R case. We can't do that anymore because of Corsair's decision. I'm so upset by it. Again, a great opportunity for another case manufacturer to step in, make a good quality practical case at a good price, a decent, inexpensive quality case, no frills, lots of expansion, easy to work on, nice cooling, pleasant to look at without going gaudy. Forget the RGB nonsense. Let's get back to work. What makes the world go around is in gaming. Making the games and selling the games. That's where the money is. That's what makes the world go around. People doing the work need a reliable, fast computer that's not going to overheat, that isn't going to take forever or be expensive to repair, or isn't going to be limited in what you can do with upgradability or repairability. 200R just fit that bill so nicely. Just have to wait. Holy smokes, a big contribution has come in here. Who's that from? Luke Angley has contributed $100. He says, I'm a big fan, Carrie, keep it up. Hey, Luke, thank you so much for such a generous contribution. I do want you to know, if you want to make a contribution of more than 10 or 20 bucks, it sure would benefit me and you if you did it through the techvets.com website, tech-vets, or the link in the video notes, because it'll go through PayPal, and PayPal will give me the money instantly, and they only take 3%. YouTube's going to take 30% of what you just gave me, and they might make me wait up to 60 days before I see it. I'll have no record that you gave it to me, no receipt, and I have no way to refund it. So when you submit a donation through tech-vets.com, I respond in an email and I say thank you. and I would offer you a case badge and ask you if you wanted a case badge, or heck, I'd offer you up to 5 case badges to send me your address. And so by donating, I don't want to, I appreciate the donation, but if it went through TechVets, I have a lot more control and a record of it. And I want to thank you for that. And I hope that for everybody else, take that into consideration when you're contributing. If it's $5, $10, Super Chat's fine. If it's substantial like that, you do us both a favor by going through to tech-vets.com. I cannot refund any of these Super Chats, and I have no record of who gave me what. YouTube really has a long way to go on this, and YouTube's taking too big of a chunk of it. And Michael C. has just put the PayPal link there in the chat room. So again, thank you. I really do appreciate your generosity. Aaron asks if I've looked at the Antec Performance P7 Silent. No, let's take a look. Antec P7 Silent. Looks like it's got a case window. No case windows, ladies and gentlemen, no case windows. I don't even need to look any further. Done with that one. Maybe you can work with Silverstone to design a practical, affordable case. If Silverstone offered me that opportunity, I would jump at it. It's in my own best interest to have a case that meets all the requirements of my customers, my general customers, 99% of my customers, and I would buy a lot of them. I wonder how many 200Rs I've bought over the last 5 years. It's got to be somewhere around, well, it's a few hundred. It's more than 100, but I don't know how many exactly. The P7 Silent does not have a case window. Let me take a look again. What I saw was a case window. Let me pull up a different site. Maybe the site was showing me pictures of a different P7 Silent. Price is right. Let's take a look at some of the photos. Buttons and everything are on top, which is good. It's flat. Yeah, that's good. Trying to see how the drives mount. See a spot for 2 hard drives, not 4. That's fine. I see slots under it so the cage can be moved back and forth. What an interesting idea that is. I just can't see how SSDs mount in there. I don't see where they go. I can't tell if it's toolless, how many it'll hold, and where they go. But the price is right. I could do without the white stripe. It's not a deal killer, but I could live without it. There's room for 1 optical drive, so there's no room for a memory card reader, but that's all right. The reset switch is recessed, so it can't be accidentally pressed. That's a good idea. Brushed metal look is fine. The SSDs go on the back side. I don't want my SSDs going on the back side. That means I have to remove both panels to work on it. So that's a no-go. Nope. As I want to be able, so when you're working in an office and time is of the essence and space is very limited, you've got to be able to get in and get out as quickly as possible. So again, with the 200R, I remove one panel and I have access to everything. If I have to remove the opposite panel to get to the drives, it's more work, it's more time, and it means more money. My customers want me in and out as quickly as possible. They want their employees back up and running as quickly as possible. So unless there is a real good reason to have to go through those extra steps, there are alternatives. And the 200R was a perfect example of being able to get in and get out quickly. And there's no reason for me to ever have to remove the other side panel unless I'm changing a power supply. And that's the really critical in the real world when you have to do upgrades and work on machines. It's not something that's done often. But Murphy's Law says the minute you have to put added steps for something, you're going to have to do it more often. It just seems to be the way things go. So no, that P7 is not going to work for me. Sorry, no. You'll even notice in previous build videos when I've worked on cases where the SSDs can go either in the front or in the back, I always choose to go in the front, always. The only time I go in the back is if I don't have a choice. Somebody says he's quite picky. These aren't my personal preferences. This is how I stay in business. I have to learn ways for customers to see the value in what I do. And that means by offering them quality components that are going to withstand the test of time. They're not going to be made of plastic and be brittle and crack. They're not going to have case doors that break off. They're not going to have angular cases that you can't set something on without it sliding off, or USB ports and buttons at the bottom where they got to bend over and just curse me out every single time because of bad case design. It can't cost them $100 for every 5 minutes I'm there because I have to put all this extra work in and I got to figure out where I put the screws and where these go, or drive rails get lost. Customers don't think of any of this stuff. What they think of is, wow, it sure did take him a long time and it cost me a lot of money. And it's, if I can design the parts and components that I pick to be easily worked on and quickly, then it saves the customer money. And it makes me appear to be better. They go, wow, he did that fast. He's really good. It doesn't mean I'm really good. It means I'm thinking ahead. I'm saying, yes, this is a great case today, but what's it going to be like when at the worst possible time your computer crashes? And it's a relatively simple fix, but in order for me to get to it, I've got to do 3 times more work than somebody who had the same problem in the same scenario with a different case. The customer's impression, even though it's the same tech doing the same job, one customer is going to be happier than the other customer. Does that make me picky? Or does that just make me a smart business guy? Or does it mean I just really want to eat again tomorrow? You can take your pick. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this build. I want to put the next build up here. I think what I want to do, I was going to do this Monday, but I think I'm going to do it today. I'm going to bring up the other system that's going to Bill out in Oregon. I've convinced him to stay with the MSI motherboard. Oh, and I have a correction. MSI motherboards have a 3-year warranty, just like ASRock, Asus, and Gigabyte. Newegg has it listed wrong. And MSI does not make the information conspicuous. It is pretty well hidden. It's nowhere on the box. The motherboard box does not specify any warranty information. It is nowhere in the documentation of the motherboard manual. Newegg, when you click on the warranty tab on the MSI motherboards, either has no information, same with Amazon, or it says 1-year warranty. Now, I've talked to Newegg about this, and I've talked to MSI about this. And I talked to Maximum PC Magazine because they were recently recommending MSI products. And I said, maybe you should mention it's a 1-year warranty. And they said, what are you talking about? It's a 3-year warranty. And I said, well, if it's a 3-year warranty, why is that so hard to determine? It didn't make any sense to me why MSI would cost more money and have less of a warranty. Now it makes sense. But boy, you had to go digging to find it. So MSI does have a 3-year warranty. So Bill is going to go ahead and stay with the MSI motherboard. We're going to do a test right now to compare a Hyper 212 Evo against that Liquid Maker 92 cooler. And we're going to see which one runs quieter and cooler. I think the Hyper 212 is going to win it out, but we'll see. A couple of contributions just came in. Red Dragon, another $2, says the Thermaltake Urban S41. And Evan Bruner's contributed $2. He says, try the Cougar MX500. Let me take a real quick look at those before I end the stream and start the next one. I had a Cougar case, I did not like it, but let's just see. Let's do the first one. Thermaltake Urban S41. Let me just go to Newegg and look there. Newegg had a credit card breach. So if you've bought from Newegg, you may be getting an email from them that their credit card payment system was hacked, which is not good. Newegg is the 161st most popular website in the United States and has had about 50 million people hit it for business. I forget what time frame. That affects a lot of people. And I wouldn't say there's anything necessarily they did wrong. Anybody that takes these kind of payments could suffer the same. Always pay with a credit card. Never use a debit card. That way you're covered. All right, I was looking up, what was I looking up? The Urban S41. 70 bucks. It's a good price. Let's see what we got here. Nope. I need 2 USBs up front and no doors. This has 2 USB 2s and 2 USB 3s. That's a cable nightmare. I don't want it. It's unnecessary. It's going to be a cause for a support call. There's some kind of door on top. It appears to be some kind of a door. What is that on top? Oh, it's got a door in the front. So you're not listening. No case doors. 2 USB port, 2 USB 3s. That's it. So while I appreciate the suggestion, it would help me a lot if you would actually offer suggestions based on what my requirements are. Nothing you guys have submitted matches. Not a single one of you has offered a case yet. And while I appreciate the thought, it's a little frustrating that I have to look at something that you should have weeded out for me. Okay, let's try the Cougar 500, what's it called? 500 MX? Well, that just brings up mice. MX 500. Apparently I'm dyslexic. MX 500. $42.99. Looks okay on the outside. Let's take a look. Buttons are on top. Yeah, you have no idea the amount of support calls I get. If a customer has 4 USB ports up on the front, and they go, how come when I plug on these, everything goes faster than I plug in these, and I have to explain the difference between USB 3 and USB 2? It's horrible. When you're building for the general public, you want to keep that, you want to keep the basics. Keep it basic. Wow, lots of room for hard drives in there. But there doesn't seem to be any place for SSDs in the Cougar. Also, I don't like hard drive trays. Why should we be using hard drive trays in this day and age? There's no point. If your case has hard drive trays, well, I'll take it back. I'm not completely against hard drive trays. I'd rather not. Once again, look at the 200R. When I want to put a hard drive in a 200R, I slide the bare hard drive in and locks into place. No trays, no rails. Trays break, trays get lost. Rails always get lost. They're proprietary to the design of the case. So while I have used cases with hard drive trays, if I can avoid them, my preference is to avoid them. So no, the Cougar MX500 is not going to work for me. So again, I appreciate the suggestions. We want a simple toolless design, and anything that's adding extra weight and extra parts that are proprietary to the case design are not wanted because it's a point of future potential problems. So once again, when I want to install a hard drive in a 200R, let me just show you. When you guys are making case suggestions, it's not about, it's like you're missing the whole point here. The point is I'm trying to make it simple. The point is practicality. So let's just put this one up here, right? So here's my 200R. Two USB 3s, right here. Power reset, flat top. I can take, let me show you. Let me show you what happens. I have lots and lots of customers that do this very thing I'm going to show you. They take a 2.5-inch drive like this. We're going to make backups. We put it here and we plug it in. That's it, right? Now, what if the customer has USB 2.0 over here and they plug it in over here? Why is my copy taking so long? Carrie, what's wrong? I'm getting a phone call, guys. It's interrupting my day. So we don't want that. We don't want the customers to have to learn the difference between USB 2 and 3. They just want to plug it in and it work. Now, let's say we want to add a hard drive. Look, there's a little catch here and the drive slides out. There's no tray, there's no rails. Do you know why? Because they're unnecessary additions. They're over-engineered. This is all you need. You want to put a hard drive in? I'm done. That's it. You want to put a solid state drive in? Boom. It's simple. The case panels are flat. They don't bulge out, so they're less likely to be kicked or damaged or dented. We've got lots of room back here on the other side for our cable management. Well, not a lot of room, but we've got adequate room. It would be nice if they gave us a little bit more, but it's adequate. It does the job. The beauty is in its simplicity. It's a $60 case. It's well constructed. I can stand on it. It's not going to break. And when it comes to the front fans, as I recall, and I could be wrong, I think there is a way to, well, I have to take the DVD drive out. Let's take the DVD. Look how easy that comes out. No rails, no screws. We can take this out. I'm pretty sure there's 4 screw holes right here. 1, 2, 3, 4 for a fan to go right there. And in the box, there are screws right here. What do you think these screws are for? So you can put a fan right there and blow over your hard drive cage, resolving any potential heat issue. Where's the air going to come in at? Right here. See the holes? That's where the air goes in. And they've got little filters. They don't come off. They're permanent mounted filters. It's matte black. It doesn't show fingerprints. It's showing dust. I have a lot of dust. So when I'm touching it, I'm leaving dust behind. But if I wasn't so dusty, I'm old, I'm dusty. If it wasn't so dusty, this isn't going to show fingerprints. Why is that so hard? Why is it so hard for a case manufacturer? Why is this not like why is this so hard? Why isn't this the most common case made by every manufacturer ever? I don't understand why this is unique and different. This should be the standard on which all the others are based. This is simplicity. and upgradability. There's room to work in it. There's room to add cards to your full-length graphics cards, large drives, solid-state drives, simultaneously. There's no reason to ever have to take this back panel off unless you're dealing with changing a power supply that doesn't have modular cables. Why is this so hard to do something so simple? Whatever happened to simple? Sorry, get off my lawn. You kids today and your lava lamps. I just want to look through the comments and see if I missed anything. If anybody's suggesting an Antec case, I swear to God, if it has drive rails, I'm going to lose my mind. Antec loves their drive rails. The Charcoon case is not sold in the United States. Or at least not through Amazon or Newegg, and those are my two go-tos. So if you're offering me a case sold in Europe, that doesn't help me very much. Or if I have to buy it through some seller that, yeah, it's not going to happen. The 300R is too big. Gear says, give it up, Carrie, your case doesn't exist. Well, why not? What good reason? Because it makes too much sense? $100R has terrible cable management. It sucks. The $100R has terrible, terrible cable management. Fractal design cases usually have front doors, and they often don't have 5 1/4 inch bays. I'm not at all impressed with anything Cougar makes. I've never seen a case by Cougar that I like, so I'm going to tell you right now, if it's made by Cougar, don't even suggest it to me. And pretty much the same with Antec. I haven't seen a case Antec makes in years that I've liked. Antec has this strange love affair with drive rails, and I'm sort of done with them. There is no perfect case for such less money. Yes, there is. It's called a 200R. Have you not been hearing me? That's why it doesn't make any sense for Corsair to stop making it. There's no replacement for it. Did you look at the Silverstone P13? Is it P13B or P138? I don't know. Let's take a look. I do like Silverstone stuff. I really do like their stuff. Let's take a look at it. Now you've got me interested. Let's go back to Newegg and take a look at that. Oh, you're a joke, right? Is this a joke? This is a cube case. Oh, this is an SG13B. This isn't, I don't know why that brought it up. P130, there is no such case as a Silverstone P138. No such case. There's a PT13. Maybe that's what they meant. No, that's a micro case. Sorry, guys. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, we already looked at this Antec case. We've already been through this. You're just repeating what's already been gone through. So I'm not going to go through that again with the no more Antec cases. No more Cougar cases. Don't even suggest them, guys. They don't fit the bill. Be Quiet Pure Base 600, but no sliding mounts. I don't want sliding mounts. I want no mounts. I want to be able to install it without any brackets, tools, trays. Let's take a look. I've heard a lot of good stuff about Be Quiet cases. It's expensive. So the base 600 doesn't seem to have a 5 1/4 inch bay. The drives have caddies. Yeah, this is wrong on many, many levels. Not gonna work. I don't like that the top comes on and off. That's something that will break. I can't have panels that come off and on that snap in, especially not plastic, not here in the desert. It'll dry and it'll get brittle. It's also too expensive. So the Be Quiet Pure Base 600 will not fit the needs. Silverstone PS13. Yeah, I think that was the one I was looking at. Silverstone PS13. It's in the right price point. I can't have the USBs on the side. It's not going to work. Again, you guys are not listening to me. It's so frustrating. God, this is frustrating. I'm not taking any more of your suggestions. I'm sorry, guys. You're not listening. So I appreciate that you're offering suggestions. I don't appreciate that you're not listening to me. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this stream. I'm going to bring out the next rig, and I want to do this test while I still have some daylight. So you're going to have to refresh because I have to stop the stream and start the next one. And I will see you all here in just about 15 or 20 minutes. Hey, thanks for watching, and I hope I'll see you here on the next live stream coming up in just a few minutes. Thank you.